Welcome to Soz Talks Money on Valuetainment Economics. My name's Adam Sosnick, and I'm here to help you build your wealth and save that money. On today's episode, we're breaking down the stimulus showdown. Let's talk money.
All we talk is money. All we talk is money. All we talk is money. All we talk is money.
Ding, ding, ding. It's round two of the stimulus showdown. It started with the CARES Act, then it became the HEROES Act. Now it's the HEALS Act. All I know is this. Congress better stop acting a fool and get their act together on behalf of the American people. So what I've done in this video is I've broken this down into three main components. Number one, what was with the CARES Act? Number two, the tale of the tape, Democrats versus Republicans. And number three, what you can do if you're unemployed. All right, so let's take it back to the beginning of the year and figure out how we even got here. All right, so it's January, it's February, it's New Year's, you're having a great time, it's Valentine's Day, you're having the time of your life with your girl, with your dude. Boom, COVID happens. Where did this come from? Now we're in March. All of a sudden, we're hearing things like social distancing, keep your distance, we're wearing face masks, COVID-19. What is all this? Coronavirus? Can I drink a Corona? Can I not drink a Corona? What's going on? Such new stuff to us. All of a sudden, Congress has to act. And what do? They come up with the CARES Act. So prior to COVID, the economy was buzzing. It was on fire. Obama brought it up. Trump brought it up even higher. Let's talk some numbers here. It was the largest economic expansion in modern history, lasting almost 11 years. Unemployment at 50-year lows at 3.5%. Things are on fire. The stock market is on fire in a good way. Everything is going great. Boom, COVID happens. Now, where do we end up? Happens in March and April. Next thing you know, it's 14.7 unemployment, record highs, the worst since the Great Depression. Now it's closer to 11%. Here's a little fun fact for you, or not so fun fact for you. Unemployment rose higher in 3 months during COVID than in 2 years of the Great Recession in 2008, 2009. So basically, what are we getting at here? Things are going great, economic expansion. COVID happens. Now we're comparing it to the Great Depression, the Great Recession, and times are tough, obviously. So 50 million people have filed for unemployment. Currently, 30 million people are collecting unemployment. Here's some numbers for you. During March and April, 22 million people lost their jobs. They try to bring the economy back closer to May and June. 7.5 million jobs are added. Boom, COVID hit again. Now, the current labor market is minus 15 million jobs. And now, during quarter number two, the U.S. economy shrank by 33%. So now, Congress has to act. Let's take it to the tape. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to break down the HEROES Act versus the current proposal, which is the HEALS Act. So now, I don't know if you watch any boxing or any UFC matches, but before they fight, what do? They take it to the tape. So you got Pacquiao, Mayweather, they take it to the tape. You got McGregor, Diaz, they take it to the tape. You got Tyson, Roy Jones Jr., they take it to the tape. They compare and contrast the two different fighters, or in this case, the two different proposals. Let's take it to the tape. Before I get started, let me tell you this. I don't care if you're on the left. I don't care if you're on the right. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're blue. I don't care if you're red. This show is all about the green, baby. We're going to talk money right down the middle. So basically, here's what went down. Back in May, after the CARES Act passed, and we realized that COVID was going to be here for a while, the Democrats got together in the House, led by Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer in the Senate, and they proposed the HEROES Act, which was a $3 trillion economic recovery act. $3 trillion. So basically, that was back in May. Now we're in August, and the Republicans said, $3 trillion, we're not playing that game. We're going to come out with our act, which is the HEALS Act, and they didn't come out with that until the end of July. So they were literally dragging their heels for 2 months while the Democrats had the HEROES Act on the table. Too expensive, too much, sorry Nancy, sorry Chuck. Basically what happened is Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy in the House, in conjunction with obviously President Donald Trump and Secretary of the Treasury Steve Mnuchin, they said, we're gonna come out with the HEALS Act, baby, and here's what the breakdown is. So right now we're going to go category by category and break down each proposal and what it means to you. So off top, let me start with this. If you qualified for a stimulus check during the CARES Act, good news, you're getting another stimulus check. That's actually the one thing that both sides agree upon, more stimulus checks. So if you're just hearing this for the first time, congratulations. You're getting a stimulus check. Now let's break down who is getting a stimulus check and how much you're getting. So this is all based on your tax filings in 2019. Now check it. If you're single and you make $75,000 or less, you will qualify for $1,200. If you're single and you make $85,000 as an example, it's a sliding scale, you'll be eligible for $700. And if you make $99,000 or more, you get nothing. Moving forward, if you filed as head of household and you made $112,000 or less, you get $1,200. As an example, if you made $125,000, you'd be eligible for about $575 in stimulus check. And if you made more than $146,000 as head of household, you get nothing. If you're married and you make as a joint couple $150,000 or less, you'll be eligible for a $2,400 stimulus check. As a married couple, if you make $175,000, you'll receive $1,115 stimulus check. And as a married couple, if you make more than $198,000, you also get nothing. So congratulations if you received a stimulus check. That's where both sides agree. Now, where do they disagree on stimulus checks? Well, the Democrats say dependents can receive $1,200 per dependent. That's up to 3 dependents. Republicans are saying, no, not so fast. $500 per dependent, but there's no cap on that. So dependents on the HEROES Act, $1,200. Dependents on the HEALS Act, that's $500. So that's basically where the Republicans and the Democrats agree. Congratulations, they've compromised. Boom, you're getting stimulus checks. But then from there, it gets worse. It's kind of like, So now let's break down some of these specific differences in the acts. Let's start with this. Cities and states. So the Democrats, as part of the HEROES Act, wanted to add another $1 trillion to cities and states to recover from COVID. So basically, these cities and states have had no tax revenue, their profits going down, businesses have been closing. Democrats saying, let's give cities and states $1 trillion. Republicans are saying, you're getting no money, buddy. We've already given you money in the CARES Act. Specifically, they've given $340 billion, part of the CARES Act, to cities and states, and actually only 25% of that has been used. So here we go, we got a difference here. Democrats, $1 trillion for cities and states. Republicans basically said no new money. All right, moving along, next category is the PPP, which stands for the Payroll Protection Program. This was implemented during the CARES Act to help small businesses that were the most hard hit. So let's break down the differences between the Democrats and the Republicans. So basically, the Democrats said no new money. You ain't getting no more money as part of the HEROES Act. They said, we've already given you $650 billion in forgivable loans. You ain't getting no more money. Sorry, small businesses. Republicans are saying, not so fast. We're actually going to inject another $190 billion into PPP. So here's some of those stipulations. They said, listen, we want to help the most hard-hit small businesses. They want to expand eligibility. You could potentially receive a second loan, and they want to eliminate the 75% payroll requirements. So some major differences in those two categories right there. Democrats, they want to give more money to cities and states. Republicans said no new money, buddy. Democrats say no new money for PPP. Republicans saying, hell yeah, sign them up, $190 billion. So some key differences right there in these two plans. The next category is schools. Both sides want to help the schools reopen. I think we can all understand that kids need to get back to school, whether that's on campus, whether that's in class, whether that's remote. Kids need to be in school. We understand that. So Republicans, as part of the HEALS Act, said we'll give $105 billion to schools. That's broken down $70 billion K through 12 and $30 billion for higher education. Democrats said, oh, you think you like schools? Well, let me show you what we got. We got $430 billion for schools. That's broken down $58 billion K through 12, $42 billion in higher education, and over $100 billion in something they call the State Fiscal Stabilization Fund, whatever that is. A lot of money. I don't think that much money is going to end up going into schools, but those are the two different programs. The next category is evictions and late fee protections. Here we go. Democrats, as part of the HEROES Act, says we want to extend the moratorium on late fee and evictions. They want to extend it 12 months. They've actually added some money to that program as well. Basically, $200 billion in housing programs and $100 billion in rental assistance. So they're here to help the people. Now what's part of the HEALS Act? Basically, Republicans are like, no, nothing. You ain't getting nothing. Sorry, they do not address this topic whatsoever. So that's a key differentiator between the HEROES and the HEALS Act. Moving on. Then we got, in every single stimulus bill, there's always an add-on. I'm going to add some stuff on. Throw that in there. Just throw that in there. So let's break down some of these add-ons on the HEROES Act. So basically, they want to add $25 billion for the post office. So mail-in ballots, that's that whole thing. They want to add $10 billion for food assistance, SNAP, that's also known as food stamps. And they also want to add $3.6 billion for election security. Let's talk about the Republican add-ons. Well, they didn't add much because, as you can see, there's a major difference in the amount here. Their add-on was this. They want to add $1.75 billion for a new FBI building. I'm not sure what that has to do with the economic recovery, but they threw that thing in there. Speaking of election and security, Republicans, they want to add goose egg, zero to more election security. They've said, listen, part of the CARES Act, we've already contributed $400 million. So this is some key add-on differences between the two programs. Now let's get into the big one, unemployment benefits. A lot of people unemployed, a lot of people wondering what is going on with unemployment, because as of today, unemployment has officially expired as of July 31st. We're now in early August. Nothing has been completed yet. Now, what's the deal? Democrats, as part of the HEROES Act, they said, listen, we want to continue $600 payments every single week, bing, 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 every single week on top of whatever your state's unemployment benefits were. So some people are making $800-900 a month being unemployed. Republicans are saying, hold on, not so fast. We're going to lower that amount. A lot of people, and in fact, 2/3 of people are making more money at home than when they were working. So the Republicans want to give you $200 a week, and then what they want to do is they want to bring that up to 70% of what you were previously making. So there's a lot of moving parts here. What do you think? Continue $600 a week payments on top of your state's unemployment? Is that too much? Is that making people not want to go get jobs? What do you think? The Republicans, they're lowering it $200, and then they're going to bring it up to 70%. A lot of moving parts here. This is the big debate. This is the one big question. We left it at the bottom so you could start weighing in. We'd love to hear your comments on this. 600, 200, what are your thoughts? Okay, so that is the unemployment debate. That is currently where we stand today. Moving right along, it's all about liability and liability protection. What does that mean? If shit goes down and there's a problem, who's getting sued? Everyone's concerned about that. So on the Republican side, who are they most concerned with? Well, they're concerned with employers, they're concerned about schools, and they're concerned about doctors. They don't want them getting sued. Democrats on the other side are like, hold on, we're going to take the other side of the coin here. We're concerned about employees, we're concerned about students, and we're concerned about patients. Both sides are concerned about the right people, but different methodology. So there's a little difference right there. So speaking of concerns, there's a lot of concerns on both sides. Let's break down some of the concerns, the pros and cons of each of the sides. All right, so on the Democrat side, they have a tendency to overspend. They kind of went too big on this HEROES Act, $3 trillion. They've already added $2 trillion to our national debt, which is, by the way, $26 trillion currently. So did they go too big? Did they spend too much? What do you think? I don't know. Then you got the Republican side on the HEROES Act. They didn't spend enough, I think, right? They kind of went too slow. This act's been out there since May. They took their time not bringing it until July. I think they went a little too slow, not enough. So what at the end of the day is going to happen? Let's break that down. Now in America today, we got two divided sides. One's at $3 trillion, one's at $1 trillion. Now I'm not a mathematician, but I know that 3 plus 1 equals 4. Divide that by 2. Now you're back at $2 trillion. Where do I know that $2 trillion for? Well, the CARES Act, that was $2 trillion. So what are my thoughts? My thoughts are this. They're going to have to compromise. The Republicans are going to have to come to the center. The Democrats on the left are going to have to come to the center. Your $3 trillion, your $1 trillion might end up being $2 trillion. But here's what we know. Stimulus checks will be there. Unemployment will be there. Money will be there for schools. States and cities might get some money, might not. We'll see about that. PPP may or may not be there. We'll see if there's going to add more money than that. So what we know is this. Here's the kicker. They got a deadline. That deadline, my friends, is August 7th. What goes down on August 7th? Well, Congress, lucky for them, gets another summer break. So my prediction is hopefully there's something figured out by August 7th. If not, some heads will be rolling. So my prediction is this. One's at $3 trillion, one's at $1 trillion. My guess is they're going to meet somewhere in the middle, I would assume, and get that done before August 7th. All right, so part 3 of this segment is all about the people. My people at home that are unemployed, underemployed, between jobs, they got laid off, their company laid them off, their company went under. This part is all about you. All right, ready? Let's get into it. So if you're currently unemployed, here's what you got to do. Number 1 is you got to apply. You got to apply at your state Department of Labor website, and that's where you get started. Boom. So now every state has different qualifications. So in Texas, Florida, and Pennsylvania, they got qualifications like you need to be actively seeking work in order to qualify for unemployment. And then you can't refuse what's called meaningful work, whatever that means. So that's number one. Number two, if you're collecting unemployment benefits, how long does that last? Now, usually it lasts 12 to 30 weeks, but with part of the CARES Act, they said, listen, buddy, we're gonna add another 13 weeks onto unemployment benefits. Not so bad. So they're there for you. They're giving you money. Number three, food. SNAP. This used to be called food stamps. You can apply for that. There's local food banks. There's local food programs. Let me tell you something. When it comes to unemployment and when it comes to food, you should have no shame in your game. These are programs to help you eat, live, and survive. Have no shame in your game. Let me tell you something. I talk about money. I'm a 40-year-old man right now. Let me tell you something. When I was 23 and I lost my first job, I collected unemployment. I collected food stamps. No shame in your game, all right? Go get that money. Number four, now you gotta start your job search. Are you looking for full-time? Are you looking for part-time? You're looking for a completely new opportunity? You gotta start your job search. If you're gonna start your job search, well, you better have a resume. Here's an example of a resume that we brought up for you of a great candidate, Jobby McJobface, looking good. Number two, you gotta reach out to job recruiters. Number three, you gotta update your LinkedIn profile. These are things you need to do in order to start finding some work. Update that LinkedIn profile. So the number one question that a new job will ask you is this: how did you improve during COVID? You better have an answer for that. How did COVID change your thought process? You better have an answer for that. You better prepare for this line of questioning. Every job is gonna ask you these type of questions. So there's a hot tip for you. Number five, work on your skills. Why? Because skills pay the bills. Here we go. So you gotta be making sure that you're focusing on careers or jobs that are in demand, right? Like if no one's hiring for what you wanna do, you gotta pivot. So make sure that you're working on in-demand job skills. There's free online college courses, tons of them. Coursera, Harvard, Yale are offering free online courses. Check them out. Categories like coding, data science, leadership, free classes, free courses, focus on that. Understand that you might be working remote. Understand what Zoom is, Slack, different things like that technologically that can advance your career. All right, you can intern, you can volunteer, you can fill that resume so you look good. And if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, well, you've come to the right place, baby. On Valuetainment, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos explaining all the things that you need to know about becoming an entrepreneur. And number six, very underrated, don't forget about your mental health. There's a lot of time staying at home right now. Maybe you're not talking to people. If you're having problems, talk it out. You can do yoga, you can meditate, physical exercise. You're not alone. Make sure that your mental health is positive and that you're not going down a negative path. All right, so what does it all come down to? Well, check this. Things are very unclear right now, we know that. But what is clear? What is clear is that there are certain steps that you can take, that you can take to better position yourself for the future. So the question is this: will you be prepared? All right, so that's it for this episode about the tale of the tape between the Heroes Act and the Heels Act. Which act do you identify with more? Which one would you go with? Democrats, Republicans, heroes, heels? What are your thoughts? So if you have not seen my video about the CARES Act, my first video I did with Valuetainment, check that out. And if you have not subscribed to Valuetainment Economics, will you do that right here? Please do that. And as always, save that money.
All we talk is money. All we talk is money. All we talk is money. All we talk is money.